Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and this podcast is for you if you are an entrepreneur. Yes, page and stage come together in entrepreneurship. Now, you may have a solo book out, you may have a contributory book out, one that you've put a chapter in, you may have a regular blog. You may not, but if you're an entrepreneur, I can guarantee you've got socials, haven't you? And what's that if it's not published work? Go you. What about this speaky bit, the stage? Well, a lot of people come to me and go, oh, I can't do the public speaking. I'm shy. I'm an introvert. And my response is, can you do a one-to-one conversation with someone? Yes. Well, then you can do a podcast. Is that a stage? Yes, it is. So welcome. If that feels like it's you, come and talk to us. Let's get your message out on a podcast. Anyway, this is a really good episode. I'm so looking forward to this. I want to introduce you to this gorgeous lady, Natasha Sharma. Now, Natasha and I have known each other for about that long. I can tell you a little bit about her, but she knows herself so much better than I do. Natasha, over to you. Give us a bit about who you are and how you came to be where you are now.
Oh my goodness. First of all, thank you, Wendy, for having me on your podcast. And let's see. So I was born and brought up in England, and I live in India. I've been living here for the last 20 years. By profession, I'm now in my second profession, which is that of a clinical hypnotherapist. And for the last 12 years, I've been learning, practicing, and most importantly, applying the principles of healing onto myself. As a result, there's been massive shifts and leaps that I didn't even know I was signing up for, to be honest. But part of that, the self-awareness journey led me to a place where I was definitely in alignment and so much awareness of myself that it needed to translate out of me to express it. And so therefore I started writing. So now I am an international best-selling author. I often go onto stage like I'm here. I started off my writing journey with a mission to talk about death. It was just after COVID, and I realized that accepting one's death gives a sort of freedom to live one's life. It might sound counterintuitive, but that's what it is. And I took the stage to talk about that I want to talk about death openly and honestly so often that eventually it should be dinner table conversation. As easy as talking about your birthday party, you talk about your death, how you want things done, whatever. I mean, it shouldn't be shrouded in mystery. It is a fact that we're all going to die, and we die little deaths every day anyway. And understanding the grieving process, understanding what we go through when there's major change, the love of a lost one, disease, divorce, breakup, a friend not talking to you, it can be as simple as that, losing a job, all these things, deaths of dreams. It's a really big conversation. So I started in a book collaboration, Wealth Codes. And then I have been part of 5 different book collaborations, 3 of them healing journey orientated, healing self-empowerment, basically. And then 2 of them were children's books. So I wrote fiction, children's books, two of them. And there I found, so writing in the first category, the healing category, I found my authentic, vulnerable self journey. That was really scary, but it was life-changing. And then when I wrote the 2 fiction, I really enjoyed writing fiction. I really did, these children's stories. And that brings us here to the present moment where I am launching my first full nonfiction novel, fantasy
It's a
novel.
novel,
It's
a
a novel.
non-fiction novel?
Yes,
Sorry,
a fiction,
a fiction novel, right? Yeah.
fantasy fiction novel. It's the first book of a trilogy, even though the name is Divine Mother's final chapter, Abracadabra, but it's book 1 of the trilogy. So it's a non-linear, I've planned it as a non-linear trilogy.
Love it. I mean, let's face it, if the Star Wars franchise can make an absolute bucketful with prequel, because I don't think we ever had a prequel before they did. I
Right.
love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, so I'm going to take you back in time for a bit.
Hmm.
When did you first realize that this writing thing was for you? I mean, we all start off with the mechanics at roughly the same age we're taught in school. But when did you get the idea that, "Oh, I'm actually quite good at this. I enjoy this"?
That's a very insightful question. Um, I don't know if I could have answered this a few months ago, but I've definitely been thinking deep on it. And if I actually go all the way back, then I was a published author at the age of 8. I just didn't know it enough to own it. I'd
Mhm.
written a poem on a mango tree. So my grandmother, my father's mother, she was a really, really well-known author and political activist.
Uh-huh.
Fi- uh, she fought for the freedom movement. She for independence. She was a professor in a university, and she used to
This
write
was in
poems.
India?
This was in Bangladesh.
Okay.
And well, at that time, yes, it was India, British India.
Yes.
So anyway, she would regularly publish stuff, and I wrote this poem on a mango tree, and I was aged 8, and she put it in her book. And it's only later, much, much later, that I was like, oh, I'm already published. Why am I making such a hoopla about being a published author? I could have said it my whole life. And like you, of course, in school, English was one of my favorite subjects, writing. I was very good at literature. I would participate in plays. So I was always apparently, my maternal grandmother told me that when I was really young, like below 8, before that, I used to write plays and I used to put up productions in the living room for my parents and grandparents. So I guess I've always had the arts in me, organically coded, inherited from my ancestors. But as you know, life does a number on us, and we need that validation and we need that confidence. And I don't know, I never really thought of being a writer as a profession, except my maternal grandmother, a week before she died, this was 6 years ago, a week before she died, she and I were having a conversation. I was telling her, she picked up on something I'd said, and she basically said, why are you always so needy? She asked me. She's like, why don't you wait for things to be given to you? Why are you always like, I want, I want, I want? Why do you always have this? She didn't have the words for it, but it was scarcity, lack. It was the drama of waiting to be chosen, basically. And then that's the first time we had a full-on conversation where I told her, I said, listen, when your father is a narcissist, there are ways in which you cope, and one of them is having to ask for what you need, otherwise you won't never get it because it's a
Yes.
power play. And she just looked at me and she was like, your life is so interesting. You don't realize how many stories you have in you that people would be fascinated by. And I'm like, poof. She's like, you need to start writing about it. She said, you should write. She had just recently apparently read this book. It was just a very simple, small book of a lady in a village in India, and it was her day-to-day life. There was no drama, no hero's journey, no nothing. But she told me that reading that just gave me a window into somebody else's life. And she said, I enjoyed that. She said, I
Yes.
enjoyed that. I enjoyed how a person lives so close to earth, whatever little struggles that she had in her life with poverty and her children going away and being alone. She said, I felt a comradeship with her,
Yeah.
even though I'm in England, well off, but I live alone. My children are all grown. They're, we all, that the sameness, yet the differenceness. And she basically said this to me, and a week later she died. And so, as part of the grieving process, those were literally her last words to me,
Yeah.
and they really landed. And so I gently, gently, gently walked into this. But definitely, like my second book that I contributed to was about the experience of becoming a published author. Like the day that I saw that I'm actually, like, I wrote about death, I wrote a very vulnerable piece. And the minute I realized that anybody in the world could pick this up and read my books, it was such a powerful shift that that's what I wrote about in my second book,
Right.
about up leveling and how life changes and how your body changes and your cells start vibrating and the infinite possibilities start opening up the minute you're brave enough to actually step out into the world.
Yes.
And
It's that
words have power.
vulnerability piece, isn't it? It's having the confidence to go, this is me. Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. Dings. Dings.
It's a big
So
deal.
beautiful. So that's when you started writing. And obviously this is part of your makeup. As you've said, you've got the creative stuff in you all the way through. Tell us a bit, how did you start speaking? I mean, you and I went to school in the UK, and we didn't have the experience of doing class presentations like they do in North America. And quite a lot of the people that I've had as guests have said that at that point they fumbled and they were teased, and that way went down, not doing this again type thing, understandably. So I'm curious, Natasha, when did you discover that you had the ability, a penchant for speaking?
Well, I guess again that is probably it's probably seeded ancestrally. Myself as a personality, I've always been very verbal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been a constant refrain, sometimes negative, sometimes positive, since I've been really tiny. So this need to express myself, like I told you about the plays that I used to put up, and
Yeah,
then I used to do drama classes, I used to do singing. And so it was a mix of, oh, you talk so much, and oh, you should be a lawyer because you're so good with your words. So it was always like a mix of that. So I've always had, and also there's been the bit of, shh, don't say too much, talk lower, slower, don't talk at all of those bits and pieces that we had as women growing up at the time, during the times that we did. Um, so it was a mix of things, and I did reach a point where, so that from there I guess I got my confidence early
mm-hmm.
on. But speaking on stage, I also used to participate in debate a lot. I used to do debate, I used to do elocution, and so that probably became part of my strengths, but I didn't think about it till you asked this question, to be fair. But once I became an author and my words went out there, then the words from my mouth and my vocal cords, I guess, had to follow. And the way that you hold this space so beautifully from page to stage, that is part of the author's journey. When you're writing, you need to also speak, you need to do readings, you need to, the journey will take the author there. And that's where I am at. I expressed to you before we started recording how nervous I am today. And this is how I felt when I had my first podcast ever. I was so nervous. And today I have
Mm.
a podcast of my own. And so basically it's just a journey really. And it really is about becoming authentic.
Yeah,
The minute that we totally know ourselves, warts and all, and we can be comfortable in that. We can own our story. We can
yeah,
take 100% responsibility for who we are, including apologizing, taking accountability, asking for forgiveness, forgiving ourselves. I know all of these just sound like just words right now, but this is a heartfelt, well lived journey.
yeah,
And once that all clicks into place, then everything becomes very easy.
yeah. Mm. The thing is, it's about you being vulnerable, and it's also about putting the message as more important than the deliverer.
Mhm.
Because that's something I've found with working with a lot of the people that I've worked with over the years, that when we get past the, oh, they're all looking at me, they're all looking at me, we well, yes, they are. And chances are they're looking at you and going, I'm glad it's you up there, not me.
Mhm.
Your point about the vulnerability, there was one audience, if you're not familiar with the fact that I was a TEDx speaker coach for a few years, we had one of our speakers who's a professional voice user. She's actually an attorney, and used to develop standing up in front of the High Court. Not a problem. We get around to the red circle at dress rehearsal and she freezes.
Mm.
And she said, what's that about? I mean, so yes, but when you are in the court, you are speaking out a well-prepared brief about somebody else.
Mm.
This is you, my dear, bearing your soul. So of course it's going to be different. So yeah, and it is that how willing are you to be vulnerable, to share your story and show that it's more about the message than it is about the messenger.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying with the book about the family, the lady in India who just had that was just sharing her life. There are a few common journeys that all of us have, regardless of where in the world we are. They just have a different, if you like, different set of clothes on them, but it's the
Mm.
same journey that is relatable, whether you've grown up affluent in the UK compared to rural India. So yeah, love that. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you. So we talked about your writing journey. We talked about your speaking journey. Tell us what you're working on at the moment. I mean, you've given a little hint of it, so give us more information. What's coming up?
Okay, so this book came to me as, I guess, an expression of what I was experiencing in life about 15 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Um, and I got the download while I was at work. And
Whoa.
I literally on my lunch break picked up my office notebook and I wrote down this story. And then I went home and I continued writing on it. And by the time I was done, it had a beginning, middle, and an end. It had characters, it had character sketches, everything complete. Once I put that book down that day, that notebook down, I have never picked it up since. The story has stayed here, but
Uh-huh.
it's just been marinating for 15 years. Also my journey in the last 15 years. Um, and now, as I have written this, I see how it's all come together so beautifully. And the fact that it's taken me 15 years to write it doesn't mean that I've been sitting at my desk for 15 years writing it. Like I said, I haven't touched it, but that's the beauty
Yes.
of the subconscious mind. That's the strength of the subconscious mind, how much power it actually holds, that it's been working on it for the last 15 years. But
Yeah.
I must at this point give a shout out to a topic that I think would be of great interest to your listeners, which is the role of AI in writing now.
Mm-hmm.
So I had almost come because like I'd mentioned, already had 5 books published. It's kind of like I'd been to writing school and now I know a lot about the publishing industry. And that was my intention
Yeah.
of doing collaborations. I wasn't there on my own. And
Uh-huh.
having done 5 collaborations, I figure that I know enough to step out on my own now. I have a network. I know people like you. I know other professionals. I know writers. I know speakers. I know publishers. I know all the different ways in which, with the options that writers have in today's day and age. And so I decided very clearly that this time I'm going to self publish.
Mm-hmm.
So once I got that clarity, I decided I was going to start writing. But around the same time, so this was last year, and around the same time, the whole buzz about AI started coming up, like
Yeah.
majorly. And my first concern was, why am I even going to bother being an author now when AI
Mm-hmm.
can just write a book and self-publish it? And then how does a person know whether it's AI or me? And AI can generate 100,000 books a day if it wants to, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that made me very insecure. Very not really insecure, I guess more like, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
So I spent quite a few months very desolate around that, around
Mm.
AI and how does a publisher know whether I've written it or AI's written it, who gets the credit, what is it all about? So anyway, I actually ended up having a conversation with a very good friend of mine who's a multiply published author in India. He's an
Mm-hmm.
Indian author. So that's the other thing. I'm very clearly not an Indian author, and neither do I wish to be in that bracket. I'm 5 times published in the US, and I am international. And so, even for my self-published thing, that's also a thing. Anyway, this gentleman is an Indian published author. That's his choice. He is. involved with the government, and he does a lot of speaking and interviews on television and stuff. So he happened to be visiting Pune, which is where I live now, and he came over for dinner, and I expressed my hesitation around AI and why should I even write. And he gave me clarity that AI, maybe it has that capacity, but that capacity isn't actually offered to the world. AI is still greatly kept by the founders, and they don't actually want to unleash that capacity onto the world right now. So AI is not being prompted to write those books. It's not going to serve anybody. But AI is a very, very effective tool. So AI meets you where you are, anybody. So if you want to use AI like Google and help it plan your vacation, it can help you do that. As an author, if you are very clear on your story and where you're going, and you hand that in partnership over to AI, it opens up a whole new world. And it is up to the author as a gatekeeper to approve the words or not, to approve the energy or not, and to hold it sacred. So I have partnered very heavily with AI, almost to the point where I feel that these last 15 years, I was manifesting AI to happen. Like that's how it's like the most wonderful tool. It's like she's my best friend. She is a best sounding board. If I leave her on her own, then she's like a little child and wanders off somewhere. So definitely there's a lot of work that goes into working with AI, but it is wonderful because, Wendy, there was this one fantasy I had, which was that in this fiction book, it should have its own language, like how J.R. Tolkien made his own language. I wanted to create my own language, but that whole journey of actually coming up with grammar and syntax and words requires a lot of imagination and a lot of like background power to remember stuff, which is not my strong suite. I've never managed to memorize things. But with AI, I managed to create my own language. So in the book, there's a new language called Auralith, and I'm going to also be publishing a dictionary with the glossaries. If anyone wants to, I don't know, become fans and learn the language and speak the language like Elvish, they can.
Oh, what fun! What fun! I mean, to your point about the AI, I used it tremendously when it came to the editing, and because I would sort of say, give them a role, and then say, right, I want some advice. I want your help with, and then as you say, excuse me, you have got to be clear with them. No, that's not what I meant. Can we go back to what I said, please? You don't need to mansplain it. I know what I mean, and this is what I mean. So please, would you follow the instructions you've been given? Don't go off on a tangent. When as you say, when you've taught it, these are the rules by which we will engage. Then I find it has been tremendously helpful. And as with any tool, it is a tool. So, I mean, in what we all know is when it comes to computers, garbage in, garbage out. The same goes with the AI. You have to put into it, otherwise it can run amok. And one of the things that you know, when audience, if you don't already know this and you're planning to do publishing, you have to state whether it's AI generated, whether the book cover is AI generated. If so, how much of it was AI generated? And I mean, the book that I put out last week, the cover was AI generated with a lot of tweaks. And they also ask which program you used. So they are very clear on Amazon that they require you to be upfront and go, this was helped by. The editing I haven't credited them for, because I also had a couple of humans helping me out. So yes, there's the potential for getting AI to write your book. However, it doesn't connect at a soul level. And that's the big difference. I mean, you and I are both into the energy side of things, Natasha, and when you read something, there's you can tell at the moment. I mean, down the track, maybe not, but at the moment, it's a. I wonder
Yeah,
who wrote this. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, so when my friend told me that AI on its own can't write a whole book, so therefore that made it very clear that I wasn't in competition with AI.
Yeah.
Then he introduced me to the full scope of AI, like you said, as a tool, as a helping hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I started dabbling in making myself familiar with AI. And then I also did my research, and what you just said is absolutely correct. When I read that, that gave me great relief. Ironically, it's instead of panicking that, oh, I have to tell, I have to give a disclaimer, or I have to give credit to AI or whatever. It actually made me feel good, because then I can
Mm-hmm.
be open, I can be honest, I can be authentic about it, and I had no idea how far AI would be part of my journey of this in the writing. As it turns out, that I mean, it is, I will actually be giving credit to say that it was a co-created. We
Mm-hmm.
co-created it together,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so enmeshed. And like you, of course, it's part of my editing thing, but also the editing and the formatting of AI is actually not very good, in terms of, like, you still need the human element because of the understanding of why you're weaving things together. And there are certain things that it gets fooled by, and it doesn't catch the grammar and the syntax errors always. So to only use AI, to use AI heavily just for editing, I have my reservations right now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yes, I have my human helping me, my proofreader, and but um, the fact that I can just give credits to say that partnering with AI helped me take um, from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people who have their autobiographies ghostwritten, I mean, what's the difference? People don't give ghostwriters credit.
Yeah.
So, but technically here we're being more transparent than people who pretend they've written their books and haven't,
Yes.
by other humans. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's no longer a debate. I'm just like, I just wanted to share that if there are any authors like me who are hesitant to take that leap, don't let AI stop you, and don't feel that you need to use AI necessarily. You can or you can't. It's the world is the same as before AI. It's the same
Yes.
thing as going to a library and reading thesauruses and references and the Encyclopedia Britannia to write stuff that how we used to do it before. And today we just use a computer who delivers it in 30 seconds, not even, compared to like the 30 hours we would have spent in the library. So it's all good. The world is the same. It's just expanded in terms of possibilities. And that is really exciting. Like, I can talk about having a trilogy right now because I have AI as a partner.
Yes. Yeah. It's exciting. It's
It is.
exciting. I mean, Natasha, I'm feeling the bubbling, percolating excitement from you, and I love that. When are you? So when is this book published?
It is going to be published on the 12th of August, 2025, which is my grandmother's birthday, the same grandmother who asked me to write before she passed. So this
Oh,
book I am going to be dedicating to both my grandmothers. Um, yeah,
oh,
AI
that's
and my two
that's
grandmothers.
precious. That's precious. Great. Are you having launch parties? How are you going to do the actual launch day?
I haven't actually decided whether I'm going to do a launch party, because honestly, Wendy, just really honestly, you know how much work goes into it. You just did it and you were traveling time zones when you did it. So, yay to you. But honestly, at least in the 5 collaborations I've been part of, I think people are too busy to
Mm-hmm.
really show up, especially to show up for a celebration on Zoom. Um, I'm not feeling like it. I'd rather just do an energetic celebration on my own
Yeah.
amongst the people around me who know. My main exercise is to, um, so because this is my first endeavor as a
Tell me.
novel, this is my opportunity to ask my friends and my family to really support me. Whether
Yeah.
you enjoy this genre of book or not, I'm pricing it at a very reasonable price. In fact, I've been told that I'm pricing it too low, but I'm
Okay.
good with it. I'm pricing it at 9.99,
Mm-hmm.
whether anywhere in the world. So if you're in India, it's 999 rupees. If you're in the US, it's $9.99. If you're in England, it's £9 99 pence. Um, and so forth around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing so that it is an affordable bracket for people to support me. I mean, you're my friend. Hey, do you have $10? Can you just like go and just buy my book on the day? If you don't like this genre, gift it. But come on, our relationship's worth $10. So that's my strategy this
Yeah.
time.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Well, I mean, audience, I'm just going to share a little bit about what happened last week. I was telling Natasha off camera. I did one launch party for friends and family in the US and Canada, and that had a very different feel. I mean, that was the day before for them, but it was 6 a.m. for me. And then I jumped on a bus and went to a different city and did a 6 p.m. for me launch. And that was with friends and family in the UK. There was a very different feel because my old next door neighbour in Scotland turned up, and she took her laptop out to show people my old house, the one I
Oh,
left when I went from Scotland to Australia. And it was a completely different vibe because they really were people who knew me and had been traveling the journey with me. The ones in America had heard me talk about it, but they hadn't lived it with me.
hmm.
So there was a completely different vibe. But so, yes, I mean, it depends on the purpose of having the author parties. I did it because when we launched From Page to Stage podcast, we had a launch party and that was so much fun. But anyway, that was my side. This is your talking. This is about you. So you've got it coming out on the 12th of August in honor of your grandmother. I think that
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely, oh, that's beautiful. That really is. This book is coming out on Amazon.
Yes.
Are you doing hard copies as well? So, not necessarily. I mean, obviously, hard copies you can get through Amazon. But one of my questions is: are you doing it through Barnes and Noble or Ingram Spark so that you can get into bookstores as well? You're not, okay.
Not initially. I'm doing an Amazon launch. I'm also opting for Kindle Unlimited
Oh,
for the first few months,
yes.
and then we'll see where it takes us. Like with everything else in life right now, I've learned to trust the process. I've learned to trust the energy of things. And as you know, Wendy, the babies are our books, the books are our babies. And like babies and children, they have their own lives, they have their own destiny, and we're just basically caretakers. And so
Mm-hmm.
that I want to let the book find its own place.
Yeah.
I also understand enough during my years of teaching manifestation and the law of attraction to now know better. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's very manifesting consciously, it's very important to be clear, but I've learned the equal value of letting the universe take care of it because it knows so much better than you can ever know.
Yes.
So it's about putting a pin in it. So I will take care of the baby, I will deliver it on the 12th of August, and I will let Amazon hold it first. It's a good container to hold it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are infinite possibilities from someone picking it up. It's already seeded as a book one of a trilogy. I might get a book deal from Amazon, I might get a book deal from someone else. um
Mm-hmm.
if not, then okay, yes, you can put it, take it off of Kindle Unlimited, put it on the Barnes and Nobles and the Ingram Sparks and all of that. I'll do the whole deal, but as
Mm.
and when it is needed. Right now, it's
Yes.
just right now I'm pregnant and I have a delivery date, and I'll deliver, and then we'll see where it
Love it.
goes from there.
Oh, that's beautiful. Are there any plans to do an audio version?
Uh, yes and no, in the sense that again, it depends on what happens. So right now it's going to be obviously Kindle and paperback.
Yes.
Um, I want to figure out how to do an audio version that doesn't need me to record.
Okay.
So can it be done as a whole AI generated voice, or do I need to hire somebody? I don't know. That's something I haven't really looked into. But yes, all the collaborations I've been part of recently have all been converted to Audible. So I do
Okay.
understand the importance of that. And a lot of people who I talk to, especially in America, they love listening to audiobooks as they're driving.
Yes.
Podcasts and audiobooks. That's what they
Yes.
love to
I listen to mine while
do.
I'm doing the dishes as well.
Right. Yeah. So it's the new radio, I guess.
Mm.
I will definitely look into that. But right now, I think uh, the writing and the publishing is more of my focus, and we
Sure.
can revisit it down the line. And also, like I said, I will be immediately start writing, working on book 2 and then book 3. So yeah, I probably will do, let's say, okay, let's park this. I'll do the audio version of all 3 together when they're all done
Yes.
together.
Yes. Well, I mean, the launch party I had, again, excuse me for adding to that, the feedback I had, because I did a reading, what I actually did was I had a poll up for 6
Mm-hmm.
different excerpts that I was going to read, and people could choose which one they wanted to hear, and I read the top 2 most popular. And again, they were different readings from the morning and the evening session. And the feedback was, when's the audiobook coming out? Because you're a really good storyteller. And so this is why I'm asking if there's going to be an audio version, because not only for the fact that people like to listen when they're doing other things, or the incidental taking in, but there's also the thing that if people are reading your book and they've heard your voice as you're reading it, you can hear Natasha speaking these words, and it is incredibly powerful. So whilst I appreciate that maybe you're not particularly enamored of the idea, have a think about it. Don't ignore it completely, because it really does make a powerful difference to the reader, the listener's experience of your work. And audience, if you're in a position of thinking about doing an audio book, just to give you the heads up, you can't do it all in a oneer. The bots at Audible are very keen on the quality control. So you need to record at the same time every day, because your voice changes quality subtly through the day. So same time every day, same level of hydration, same acoustic area. So one of my friends, who is a professional voice artist, she travels quite a lot. So she goes and finds herself into the closet, has like a teepee wigwam with a blanket over her, and has her microphone in there. So she sets up her own little sound studio, because that way she knows she's recreated the audio environment. So
Interesting. That's helpful information.
there are so many little things that need to be taken into account when you're doing an audio. If it's a very emotive one, if there's lots of emotion in it, you need to be able to pull that out and not get so stuck in it that you can't carry on. So there's quite a lot to doing an audio version. Audience, if you want to know a bit more, give me a shout, and I can help you out with that. I am going to do an audio version when my voice is stronger. But I mean, I don't know how long your book is, Natasha. Have you got roughly?
It's basically going to end up at between 90,000 to 120,000 words.
Okay, so roughly how many pages? I mean, that also depends on the format you're using, because there are
Yes.
different formats for different genres.
So the way that, so I'm going to be using Kindle Create,
Yeah.
and at that stage when I'm up, so right now I'm at the stage of refining and formatting my manuscript. It's going through proofreading, both by AI and a colleague of mine. She and I were in one of the book collaborations together, and she very kindly has offered to do this for me, and she's great. It's also very helpful to have an American doing it, because my book is largely based in England. I mean, surprise, surprise. The
Okay.
lead character is a girl called Tara, and it's set in modern London. And so there's organically, when you start writing things based in England, England yourself, then the wording and the, I guess, the imagined accent all comes back. And so the first feedback she gave me is that, I know that you're British, but in America, we don't speak like this. And I'm like, well, my character is in England and she's British, so she's going to speak like this. She said that no, American audience still need it delivered their own way. So she did suggest. So when I wrote the book collaborations, they were all for America. I did use American spelling, and I did use Americanisms. This time I've deliberately chosen English, British English, but she gave me this feedback. So we compromised on actually having a glossary at the back that would give the
Yeah,
American trans.
I
I
did
find it
exactly the
very
same.
silly for Tara to be speaking in American English when she's
Hmm.
British in England. It just not working
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I started mine saying, look, I grew up in the UK. There will be words in here that may not be familiar to you.
Mm,
Please check the glossary.
mm.
Because, I mean, I've lived literally across the world. So there are British words, there are Aussie words. There are words that are not necessarily familiar to everyone. And I've got some Scots words in there as well. Go, okay.
How
Which is all
lovely.
part of the journey. So you're right, Natasha, you need to be authentic to the character or the time of life. And that was how you would word it at that point. And
Mhm.
yes, if it's going to a global audience, this is how you might describe it. Please check the glossary. Yeah.
Right. And it's an opportunity for people to learn. That's how I
Yes.
think. Like
Yes.
even if I'm an American, if I hear someone say, "Oh, good morning, love," like why would you say love to a stranger? I mean, come on, no. But then, it's the same thing as you saying y'all or darling. I mean, whatever. It's not a big deal. I mean, why is it such a big deal?
I mean, and different parts of the UK audience, if you're not familiar with the wonderful dialectal variations there are in the UK, you might say, what was it? Morning, duck.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Duck?
Ducky.
Do I
Yeah.
look like a
There's
duck? So
Yes, I
yeah,
know.
it's all
Uh,
those wonderful things that if you have a context, you need to be true to the context. I love it, love it. So that book's coming out on August the 12th. Oh,
mhm.
exciting. How do you, because you've done both the page and the stage, I'm going to ask you, how do you embody your words when you take them from page to stage? Do you have any particular process that you go through?
Interesting. So, in the first book, which was the beginning of my journey, it was very easy to embody the message because, like we said, it's all about authenticity. So, at that
Mm-hmm.
point in time, we just come out of COVID, there's watching all this random loss, really uh, embracing the healing journey, the grieving journey, the message around death that I'd put on the page became very easy to talk about it on stage. And in
Yeah.
fact, it was very, very good for me in retrospect when I look at it that my subject covered everybody and
Yes.
everywhere. So it's a
Yes.
message that had to go out to
Yeah.
every podcast, no matter your audience. And so I was invited onto a very, very diverse selection of podcasts because anybody needed to hear this message. So it was
Mm-hmm.
very easy for me to bring that from page to stage because it was a very authentic, passionate
Yes.
mission. And I had this message and it went out there. Um, what ended up happening on that journey? And so interesting, actually, I haven't actually thought about this, spoken about it for a while, but my intention was to write a full book on death. And I have actually the whole outline, including chapters with chapter titles and subtitles, reviewed by a publisher already,
Mm-hmm.
all in place. The reason it's gone on to the back burner and the fiction one came first is number one, like I said, I seeded this idea 15 years ago. Number two, writing those children's stories made me very interested in delivering fiction first. But
Mm-hmm.
the book on death is also very important.
Yeah.
Um, but I lost a cousin of mine who technically in relationships was my mother's first cousin. but in
Okay.
age he was younger than me.
Yes.
And he was basically found dead in his apartment by his wife, who just went to drop the kids to school. And when she left, he was on the sofa, like seemingly really fast asleep. When she came back, he was in the same position, and then she found out that he died. Um, and for me, that was very, very emotional. Because even though I have had the front row to all kinds of death you can imagine, like um, everything from old age to disease to murder to suicide, I have somehow been have the privilege of being a front seat, um, personally
Mm.
affected part of the death process in lots of different ways. That's why it's a book that writes itself.
Yeah.
Each
Yeah.
kind of grieving process and incident is is its own chapter. But what happened over here was that, so his dad is basically my grandmother's younger brother,
Hmm.
and he has been instrumental in having conversations with me um, about death. And we talk
Okay.
about the philosophy behind it, because I lost my mother when I was 16. And of course, my grandmother, who I'm dedicating this book to, well, dedicated to both my grandmothers, but my grandmother whose birthday it is, this is her brother.
Hmm.
And he has held my hand and discussed philosophy around death in various different kinds of deaths scenarios. But this was his son, and it sort of turned everything on its head. Like, how do you actually offer philosophy to someone around their death of their son in their 30s? Like, suddenly all the philosophies just go up in smoke,
Yeah.
and it's just deep raw grieving. And then there is something to be said for when the person is younger than you, because it just sort of feels unnatural.
Yeah.
um
It's out of order. Mm.
exactly. And yes, so that basically, that incident or that experience literally kicked me on the butt, um, and made me feel like, how can you there's still so much you have to learn about
Mm.
death and the grieving process, and the sensitivity of how it's different for everybody, and also how we project our own grief and our experience around grief onto others. So
Yes.
I realized that I needed to take a beat, so it went on the back burner. And so Divine Mother's final chapter comes out first. And then when the time is ready, I will pick that up. But to go
Yeah.
back to your initial question, death, like you said, like you just saw, I'm on it. I own it. It's authentic. It's a lived experience. And so Page to Stage is very easy around that. The
Yeah.
following couple of books haven't honestly been that easy to bring into the onto the stage. I've also not received very many invitations about it. Those are more positive. They're like, of course, the fictions were fun, and there were children's stories. But when there is books on positive transformation, or me going through positive change and from strength to strength, somehow the interest isn't there as much as there is on talking about the darkness, or talking about defeating the darkness, or coming out from the darkness into the light. It's
Mm.
stronger. It translates
Yeah.
onto stage much more easily, because you're
Yeah.
not looking at ticking some boxes of what you're delivering. So
Yeah.
it just seems that my stage is talking about death, or my
Hmm.
personal experience, my
Hmm.
journey, and just leading by example, like just giving audience an insight into my life, and which part of my experience may resonate with them or may not. So
That's the thing, isn't it? It's being back to the vulnerability, the authenticity piece again. Yeah, love it, love it. As we're winding up, Natasha, have you got any final words of wisdom for our audience?
the audience, I'm assuming, are authors or potential
Hmm.
authors,
Hmm.
and everyone has sorry, whoa, everybody has a story in them. um I guess what I'll share again is from my personal life, being present at this point in time and space with everything that's going on in the world, and all the in uncertainties that are happening in every single country, the tragedies, the politics.
Hmm.
what I would want to remind everybody is the title of your podcast, right? Words have power, and they always have had. And the pen is mightier than the sword is a fact. And if nothing else, even the power of our vote, if none of that brings out change, our words do. So, in terms of using social media, if people really want to actually use it for good, for their own voice, for their authenticity, and their vulnerability, to talk about how scared they are, to talk about the change that they envision, for how they want the world to be, how their personal experiences, whether it's in a book, whether it's in a podcast, or whether it's just in a social media post, use your words, use them wisely, realize that each and every one of them has a resonance, a frequency, and therefore power.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Natasha, for sharing your From Page to Stage. Thank you.
Thank you.
For now, bye from us.
Bye for now.